Honestly, why would you want another term? You're 66. You always claim you have Ankole cows you would love to come and take care of. Why another 5 years of madness?
This is because the problems of Uganda, the problems of Africa are clear to us, and you must deal with them phase by phase. As I told you, I don't talk of 25 years in government. I talk of 45 years in the struggle, because it is all integrated. The first phase was to chase out of power people who did not know what they were doing with power. These were the Idi Amins and all that. Now, once we chased them, it so happened that the economy really here had collapsed. So the initial phase was to achieve the second phase now after getting power. Getting power was first phase. Second phase was to achieve minimum recovery, control inflation. The economy had been totally informalized, meaning nothing was coming through the formal channels anymore. Everything that was coming here was coming through magendo, through smuggling, through speculation. So by 1996, we had succeeded in reformalizing the economy. Then now we started real development. That's when we introduced free education in the primary schools. Then in 2006, we introduced free education in the secondary schools up to O level. We are now going to introduce free education up to university level. And this is in addition to other programs, infrastructure programs, but also dealing with the regional issues.
Okay, let's come back to this day, Mr. President. When you were voting, you looked at the list of 8 candidates and you said, I'm the only one here. I'm not voting for anybody else.
Yes, of course, I couldn't vote for these people. If they had something to offer, I would have voted for one of them.
But they don't.
But they don't.
Are you going to win?
We are going to win, and with a big majority, because we have got huge support here in Uganda, especially now that the whole country is peaceful. The support is massive. I could see it in the campaigns. We have our membership books where we write all our members, so we know what sort of support we have.
Let me play devil's advocate, Mr. President. Sunday afternoon or evening, whenever they announce, the Electoral Commission chairman announces the winner, and it's Dr. Besigye.
Well, that must have been witchcraft, because how can somebody who has no support in the country win? That would be some witchcraft.
If he does, will you hand over power?
Well, you have to show that he won properly. If somebody steals votes, and but that's not like if it was possible, I would have no problem. But it's not possible, because I know the country. We know the membership.
And you're not afraid of what happened in Egypt and Tunisia, January and February, 2 dictators gone in 2 months of the year? You're not afraid, because some people, they do say.
Because we are not dictators, so I can't be afraid, because it doesn't apply to us. I don't know the system they had in Tunisia or Egypt, but our system here, you saw the candidates, 8 people competing. They lose because they don't have support. How can it be democratic that you now have a minority usurp power through demonstrations? That's not democratic. So if it happened in Egypt, it must be because of some local reasons which we don't know where. But here, we wouldn't tolerate that, because that would mean it would be a dictatorship. It would mean that a minority is using extra constitutional means to gain power. when the majority have said no, we support this one.
So you're not afraid the winds of change?
That cannot be democracy. No.
No. So the winds of change cannot blow south, you don't think, to the source of the Nile, other than the mouth of the Nile?
The wind of change started here in 1986, when the people took power. That was the wind of change. In other areas, this wind did not arrive. Maybe it's arriving now. But it started here. Here, the change we are talking about is socio-economic transformation. To transform Ugandans from being third world to first world.
Is that what you're going to do now, that you've discovered oil?
Well, we cannot achieve first world status overnight, but we are aiming at the middle income status in the next 5 years. We shall achieve it for sure.
When President Clinton came here in 1996, he called you, when he visited you, he said you are one of a new breed of African leaders. Praised you forever. 10 years later, the same Western leaders were saying, maybe this man has overstayed his welcome. But obviously they use their funds to try and keep you to them, attached to them on the umbilical cord. Now you've discovered oil. What are you telling them?
Well, first of all, Uganda was becoming self-sufficient even without oil. Because as we speak today, the donor contribution is like 20% to our budget. And if it became necessary, we could stand on our own. Because, in fact, it is really meaningless to say 20% contribution. Because 20% can become 0%. That means I only plan for the things I am able to fund. That's all. So where we are now, donor funding is welcome, but not really decisive.
Yeah. You're not going to go with the begging bowl now?
No. We are out of that. Maybe that one was important up to about 2000, but thereafter, especially 2006, we are able to fund many of our own projects. I think now there must be something like 60 or 70 projects going on in Uganda of electricity and roads funded by the government of Uganda.
Is that why the West...
The donor money has never funded so many projects at the same time, like what we are funding now.
Is that why the West now looks at you and says, you know, we can't control this man anymore?
I don't know what they are saying, and I don't know why they want to control people. Why do they think it is their work to control people? They shouldn't even attempt. It's wrong for them. So therefore, to come back to your question, even without oil, we are going to get self-sufficiency. But with oil, things will be much faster.
This place is going to grow in the next, 5 years? Will we see a difference?
We are saying that in the next 5 years, we must achieve a middle income status. We are now at $540 per capita. We must achieve $1,000 per capita in the next 5 years.
And you're the man for that job?
Of course. There's no doubt about that. Because you see, the part of the problem in Africa is the ability to focus. First of all, to identify the bottlenecks that need to be removed for the societies to transition. Many of the leaders have failed to identify the bottlenecks. That's why you find even countries which have been peaceful for a long time, they have not dealt with some of the bottlenecks, like electricity. If you look at what we call kilowatt hour per capita, United States is something like 14,000 hours per capita. But many of the African countries, some of them are as low as 12. Yes. Even the countries in Africa, which they call middle income, they've got very low kilowatt hour per capita. Yeah. Maybe 100, maybe 115. This is terrible. Now, what we have done here, why things will definitely move, is that we have identified the bottlenecks, and we are dealing with them, and we're going to deal with them even faster now that we have got our own money. Because in the past we knew the bottlenecks, but because we didn't have money, we wasted a lot of time.
25 years.
Not all the 25 years, but something that could have been done 10 years ago, you find we are doing it now because we didn't have our own money. If we had our own money, this country would be already a middle-income country by now.
You've been campaigning for about 180 days. Last 6 months you were on the road. Don't you get tired? Doesn't this stuff tire you?
It is tiring, but it is... Africa cannot... You know, Africa was colonized because of the incompetence of the chiefs and ideological bankruptcy of those chiefs. Because Vasco da Gama rounded the Cape of Good Hope in 1498. Uganda was not colonized until 1890. Now that's almost 400 years when the Europeans were hovering on the horizon and information was coming. I can forgive the old chiefs before the coming on the scene of the European. I could say they didn't know any better. So I wouldn't want to blame somebody for something he doesn't know. But here is a situation where for 400 years, a new force was coming. And information was coming from the coast that a new force is coming. And these chiefs were just here, engaged in their shallow self-glorification, king this, king that. And what happens? We are enslaved. But fortunately, we survived. People who are colonized, some of the people who are colonized never survived. Like the Red Indians, like the Aztecs, like the Incas. Where are they? They're not there. Like the Aborigines in Australia, like the Maori. Now, for us, fortunately, we survived colonialism. Now, for 50 years we have been here, not doing anything that would ensure our future again. This is not acceptable to some of us. And so when people talk of tired, I can't be tired to fight for the destiny of my people. I cannot.
How much more can you go? How much more can you take? Because sometimes you must feel like people are very ungrateful here.
No, they're all right. They're all right. It is just our problem really was that we didn't have our own money. And as long as we were begging, we were that limited. Now that we have our own money, our people are moving very well. There's no problem with the people. The people was the problem was the base. We had a very small base to start from. But now that we have the base, nothing will stop us.
2001, you told the BBC, I'm going to be here for one term. That's what you said. Your quote.
I don't remember what. Maybe I thought because for us, we are dealing with the issues. For instance, the issue of the East African Federation. This is not something I can happily forget about. That I'm in a theater, acting, to come on the stage, then I go, so that they say that I'm democratic and what have you. I'm not a clown. We must, if possible, achieve this federation.
Is it going to happen?
Yes, that's what we agreed. That's what we agreed with the Kenyans, with the Tanzanians, with the Rwandese, with the Burundi. We agreed 2012. And I didn't want Uganda to be part of the problem. Having people who are just coming to be presidents, and that's the end of the story, to improve their CVs. This is not a question of improving your CV, that I was also a president. Na mimi nimewahi kuwa rais.
All right. What do you tell people who say your ultimate goal is to be president of that federation?
I am not, my ultimate goal is not to be president of that federation. My ultimate goal is to be citizen of that federation. That's my ultimate goal.
Nothing more.
Nothing more.
the region will have about 150 million people, right? Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi. About as large as Nigeria.
Yes.
You think that'll be a...
That would be a critical mass. You see, you can have smaller countries in the world which survive, like the Denmarks, the, what do you call these small countries, Luxembourg and all this. But they have a guarantor. The European, the whites, have United States as their guarantor. They are small countries, all right, but guaranteed and insured by the United States. Now the Africans, these blacks, don't have a guarantor. And I cannot accept that situation if I can help it. So when you talk of being tired, I can't be tired as long as I've got some energy to fight, to create a center of gravity for the black man, for the black race. Yeah. Now that East Africa, with this 150 million people, would be a center of gravity. It would be almost as large as India, slightly smaller, but approaching, because India is 1 million square miles. This one would be 700,000 square miles, about the size of Iran. That would be a good minimum unit that can somehow have the potential to defend the interests of the black man.
But all the chips have to be in place and you have to be there.
I definitely, I didn't want Uganda, because Uganda in 1963 was part of the problem. In fact, Kenyatta was moving and Mwalimu were moving, but it was Uganda. Now, which Obote didn't want to move. Now I don't want Uganda now. Now that I've had this chance of helping these people come up, I don't want them to be the obstacle to the East African Federation. And this position I've been having, I would want to use it to make Uganda part of the insurance of Africa's future.
And you're optimistic it's going to happen, huh?
Definitely. We agreed with the other East African leaders. By 2012, we shall definitely move.
Something else that you're saying, less reliance on the West. ICC. Big problem, especially in Kenya. Or a dilemma. I wouldn't say problem, dilemma. Because post-election violence, names were submitted to the ICC. And now people didn't think that the ICC would act as quickly. And there is a list of names. And it looks like unless we get a deferral from the United Nations, the suspects will be tried in The Hague. Your thoughts about the ICC? Because you had your problem with Konyi up in the north.
I think the ICC, they should not overuse it. It should be used in very extreme cases, very extreme and clear cases. But if they overuse it and any political problem, then they take people to the ICC, we shall not support it. Because the problems in Kenya are ideological. They are not legal. So how will you help it by just dealing with the legalism? It is ideological. And now, because they have not properly identified the problem in Kenya, I cannot support the introduction of ICC in that type of situation. In Kenya, this tribal business, what is the importance of a tribe? I don't see it. I am a Munyankore here. But these Munyankore are not as important to me. Why? Because I produce milk, they produce milk. They don't buy from me, I don't buy from them. The people who buy my milk are the people in Kampala. So when you concentrate on tribe, whose interests are you serving? For instance, here, if I was to say, Banyankore, 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 would I be reflecting the real interest of even the Banyankore? Because the interest of the Banyankore is not Banyankoreism. The interest of the Banyankore is market, which is in Kampala. There is very little complementarity within one tribe. If you are to study all these groups, what complementarity is there between a Maasai and a Maasai? Because they are all cattle keepers. You will find there is more complementarity between a Maasai and somebody else who buys the Maasai cow for beef. So why can't the leaders see the actual linkage, interests of the people? What interests are they talking about when they talk of tribe? If I was to talk of tribes here, I would actually be the enemy of my people. First of all, of the Banyankore. Yeah. Because the Banyankore, their real interest is not in making them a separate group from the rest of Uganda. Because the other Ugandans are the ones buying their milk. And even the people who buy their milk in Kampala are not enough. That's why we want the Kenyans to buy our milk. And the Sudanese to buy our pineapples, to buy our products. So whose interests are these people who talk of tribes working for?
So what is the problem in Kenya? Why are people so obsessed with that?
Well, that's why I say it is an ideological problem. And I don't see how ICC will help here. So the answer must be for either the Kenyans among themselves, or even because we used to have PAFMESCA groups, the political parties of the African colonies used to work together. Maybe these are issues which could be discussed in a forum of parties, African parties, so that we really help each other to exchange views. Let me call it like that.
Correct.
Now, for instance, you take Nigeria.
Yeah.
This business of oil, even here they were trying to introduce it here when we found this oil here. Oil. Now, I asked them, I said, now, what is more important? Oil, minerals, or the human resource? Because there are countries like Japan, which don't have oil, which don't have minerals. They don't even have agriculture. But they are the second richest country in the world because they rely on the human resource. So, when you intoxicate yourself with all these really rubbish, oil. Now, if you don't solve that and you allow it to continue, you are going to derail yourselves. Now, if you simply introduce ICC in that situation, without identifying even what the sickness is, how would you help? How would you help? Yes, ICC can help in some very clear cases, like the case of Koinange was clear, because he was targeting, in fact, mainly his own tribe, because they were not supporting him in his rubbish, working as an agent of Sudan. So it was clear and isolated. Koinange is an isolated force. It doesn't represent anything. That's why he was killing, kidnapping, even people in his own home area. But in a situation like Kenya, when you have not clarified all these issues, and then you simply bring in the ICC, it's not a correct therapy, in my opinion.
I agree. Mr. President, I want to talk more about that after the break. I also want to talk about leadership, something that every Kenyan will tell you is one thing that's lacking in the country. We have all the other ingredients. One thing that's lacking is leadership. Maybe you can give some advice. I want to talk about Al-Shabaab. You have threatened to go all the way to Mogadishu because of what they did here during the World Cup. And also, you mentioned Sudan, Africa's newest republic. Your thoughts on that, okay? First, we'll take a break. Wow, folks, you asked for him, you got him. Call him M7, YK, Sevo, if you will. He is Yoweri Museveni, and he's waxing, calling it like he sees it without fear or favor. Stay tuned. There's plenty more coming up after the break. Don't even think of going away. Sit back, because we are back in a moment. And welcome back to Capital Talk on the Road. We are in Ypweri, folks, and it's a rare one. It's exclusive. You won't find this anywhere else. So sit back, because we're talking to the incumbent, a man who's been around as president here for 25 years, and he's asking for 5 more. Sit back, President Yoweri Museveni. Mr. President, we're talking about ICC a moment ago, and now we're talking about leadership. The biggest setback, the biggest stumbling block in any economy, in any country, in any democracy, is leadership, especially in Kenya. We lack that, and anyone will tell you that. We lack leadership. That's why we are where we are and get what we vote for.
I think, as I've already said, the problem in many African countries is ideology. Because even if you are not in leadership, whoever you are, if you are pushing a correct diagnosis, because you see, ideology is like prescription. You first diagnose a problem correctly, and then you prescribe. Say, the sickness is this, the medicine is this. So, forget about the top leaders in Kenya. How about other levels, in the universities, in the other political parties which are not in power, in the media? Have you correctly diagnosed the problem of Africa or Kenya? Because if you haven't, even if you are not the top leader, then that's where the problem is. Because if you do, even if you are a junior, but you identify, the problem here is this. This man is suffering from malaria. You may not be the district medical officer. You may be a junior doctor, but you can identify that this person is suffering from malaria. And the solution is this. Even if the DMO has not identified it, you, the junior doctor, you can identify it. So it's not just a question of leadership, it's a question of ideology in the whole elite class. Yes.
So it's our problem.
Like when I don't know whether it is your problem, but it is a problem in many places. Because if you go into, even here they had started that confusion, like the question of oil. Oil. When you examine, oil has nothing, not comparable to the human resource, not comparable even to agriculture, because agriculture is renewable. If you see the amount of money we can get from agriculture, is much more than we shall ever get from oil.
But that all will make you less dependent on the West.
Absolutely. In the short run, it is a catalyst. But you cannot confuse the catalyst with the main reaction. Yes. The main reaction, the main body cannot be confused with the stimulant. I look at the oil man as a stimulant, not as so. When you don't answer these primary questions, what is the greatest human resource? What is the greatest resource? Is it the human resource or the natural resource? Have we answered that question? Well, if you answer, and of course for me, here, I know that the greatest resource for Uganda are the Ugandans. Why? They are buying my milk. Oil is not buying my milk. These Ugandans who are buying my milk are the greatest wealth because they are the ones who make me rich. Yes, oil is useful, but it is not as useful as these Ugandans. So now when you squander that human resource with tribalism and so on and fragment it, you are really committing a crime.
Is that why we get what we deserve?
Well, I don't want to be uncharitable, but it's in the Bible it says, this is in the Bible, by the way, whatever man sows, that's what he reaps.
You reap, you sow, correct. A lot of people have described Kenya as being on the runway. On the runway, cleared for takeoff. And yet we haven't taken off. Maybe that's why.
I would want to discuss that in more detail with the colleagues from there. I don't want to talk about Kenya because I'm not. But in a forum of African parties, we can exchange these ideas freely.
Yes. Maybe they should listen. Al-Shabaab, Mr. President, what they did here on July 11th, the final of the World Cup, and you threatened to go all the way to Mogadishu if needs be. Would you still?
Well, I actually did. They tried to attack us after they had killed our people here, and we punished them. We gave them a very good punishment.
Are they still a problem?
Not in Mogadishu. We have defeated them there. We could clear them out of the whole town if we put there more manpower, because now we control about 60%, together with the other African forces. We control about 60% of Mogadishu. So they are not a problem. Yes, they are a problem because there is no pan-Somali solution yet. But locally there, they are not a problem. Yeah. We have defeated them.
You think they'll ever sort themselves out? It's been 20 years, Mr. President. 1990, when Ypweri was deposed. 20 years.
They will. It is all ideological. It's all ideology. If you don't solve the problem of ideology, you can't. The Europeans were meandering for 300 years, from the time of the Renaissance to the time when Adam Smith wrote his book, The Wealth of Nations. Europe was just meandering. This is the same problem with Africa. The children of Israel stayed in the desert for 40 years. You are talking of staying long in a problem. Those people spent 40 years meandering because they didn't know how to arrive. So, even Somalia, even all these different problem areas, the problem is ideology. Problem is ideology. What is primary? What is secondary? They have not. We have not answered this in many situations.
But how come you sorted yours out? How come you understood that? Did it take 20 years? Did it take 25 years?
Oh yes, because I had been in the student movement from the 1960s. I was in the resistance, and in that process, we were able to really illuminate what are the. Of course, we have not fully solved every problem, but at least we have a position which we push, and the more we push, the more people understand, because it is correct. Like now I have asked you, how is my Bunyankoreship important? I don't see it. The only importance of the Bunyankorism is that I produce milk, they produce milk, so together we produce volumes. And because we produce big volumes, people want to buy milk, find it easy. When they come, they find the volumes and they take. So the Bunyankore helped me to co-produce, so to achieve the volumes. But the real saviors of us to become rich are the other Ugandans who buy our milk. So when you explain this to the people and you ask them, who is those shops in Nairobi of Kikuyus, when somebody comes to buy from your shop, do you ask him his tribe? No. So then how does the tribe become more important than your actual source of life? What is the source of livelihood of many of these Africans? Before independence, Jaruos were working in all these hotels. In Speak Hotel, in all these hotels, Jaruos were the ones there. So how can now a Jaruo think of himself as a Kisumu person? Because he's not. You find Jaruos in Mombasa, all over the place. So, is this a correct understanding of the people's interests?
No.
No. It is like witchcraft. Witchcraft, when somebody is suffering from malaria, instead of identifying the plasmodium which is making you sick, mchawa anasema wamekuloga. It's a wrong diagnosis, wrong prescription.
But it can be remedied, can't it?
Of course, it can be remedied by a correct diagnosis. If you don't solve the problem of diagnosis, you will not get a solution. Yeah.
You're mentioning a moment ago, Mr. President, that Ugandans buy your milk, right? That's the most important thing. They're also buying your records. And how did you come up with this thing? Because it's a big hit, I must say. It's all over the place. YouTube everywhere. How does it go?
You want me to rock for
Just
you?
the chorus. I will say yes, Savo, but you say the part before.
You want me to repeat some? We shall do them. We shall do those later. Let's first deal with the politics.
Yes.
The Ugandans are the greatest stimulus for our wealth because they are consumers. A consumer is a help to all of us. And I don't see how a consumer could be a problem to you, so much that you should resent him or her. That is false ideology. It is like a witch doctor saying that somebody suffering from malaria, amerogwa na jirani.
And yet in Kenya, that's how tribalism works, because people will say, we're not going to vote for this person into this office because he's not one of us.
That's very wrong. Well, I'm a bit curious. Are the Kenyans Christians by some chance? Do you have some Christians there?
They claim for the most part.
Now, if they are Christians, then they should read the parable of the Good Samaritan. You remember that man who was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho? Yes. And he fell among the robbers. They beat him up. He was a Jew. That man was a Jew. They beat him up. They thought he was dead. They left him there. Now, a Jew who was also a reverend, a leader in the church, a Pharisee, came and passed by him. He didn't help him. Then another leader called a Levite came and passed by him and didn't help him. It was somebody from another religion and another tribe, the Samaritan, that came and helped him. So Jesus asked these people, he said, now of these three, who are the friend of this man? So these Kenyans who are overwhelming me, Christian, when you go, you ask them about the story of the Good Samaritan.
They forget.
It didn't say that somebody from your tribe is the one who will help you. No, it says the one with the right attitude. Even if he's not from your tribe, even if he's not from your religion, he's the one who will help you.
It's good advice. We'll tell them that. Hope they're listening, Mr. President. Okay, Southern Sudan. I know a country you're very close at, which is close to your heart. And you played a pretty significant role in making sure that this country becomes Africa's newest republic. Your thoughts about it right now that they've passed this referendum?
Well, I think the referendum in Southern Sudan is a great event for Africa, both for black Africa, but also for the Arab Africa, because it was a bad situation where the two great African groups, the blacks and the Arabs, where they meet. Now, Sudan should have been an Afro-Arab bridge, but some confused people tried to make it an Arab bridgehead into black Africa to infuse Arabism into black Africa. And that, of course, brought problems until we are where we are now. So it's therefore good that these people have disengaged. The blacks are going to have their state, the Arabs will have theirs, although even in the north there are black people there. Many of them, Darfur, the Nuba Mountains, southern Blue Nile, the Beja, and the people near the Red Sea, the ancient Hamitic groups like the Somalis, the Nubians, then there are some Arab tribes. So they needed to solve even the issue in the north to ensure that this black Arab conflict is resolved. But for the southern side, it's important because now these people have their freedom on the one hand, and the Arabs are no longer seen as oppressors on the other hand. So it's a good historical moment which we can use now to define a new relationship between Arabs and Africans.
You think they can work together?
Why not? If they can discover their real interest. Because again, the question of Sudan was a failure to discover real interest. What was the interest of a Sudanese in trying to make a Dinka a Muslim? Why? Why was this a priority? Was it not enough that the Dinka was buying something produced in Khartoum? Why did you have to impose your language and your culture on this Dinka man who has got his own culture? You see where this wrong definition of issues can lead. It starts in a small way, but it becomes unsolvable. Yeah.
They're going to need our help, that Southern Sudan, your help, Uganda, Kenya, the whole region is going to have to help them get back on their feet.
Yes, we are ready here. Of course, Southern Sudan is a very rich area. They are great people. They have struggled for so long. And they are part of our system here. They are our Nilotic people, like the Achodis, like the Nile Hamitic, like the Karamojong, like the Turkana. Topotha, if you go inside Topotha there, those Topothas are like Turkana. So we shall work with them together because they are part of our people.
Do you see them down the line joining your federation, this federation you talk about?
Well, I don't know. I have not discussed it with them because with the Kenyans, with the Tanzanians, with the Rwandese, with the Burundians, with the Ugandans, we have carried out even a survey. There is overwhelming support. I cannot talk about people who have not discussed this issue.
But it will be a great addition.
Oh, if that happened, it will be this will be a superpower here. If that one happen, so let them get their freedom, and then we shall see what their opinion is.
Yeah. A real superpower, not a third world superpower.
No. Because that would make this whole place the size of India, 1 million square miles of land, and almost 150 million people, 160, 70 million people. That would be a real superpower. In a very short time, it will be very strong.
Yeah. What's your relationship like with President Kagame, with President Kabila now? What's it like?
No problem. These are our young brothers, and we have no problem with them.
You were very close at one point in the 90s when you kicked out Mobutu. You still close?
Yes, we have no problem. We had some disagreements over some issues, but those are over. We have no problem. Our relationships are normal. In fact, our army is now in Congo, hunting for coin, with the permission of the Congo government. This is absolutely no problem.
Yeah. You going to get him?
Well, we have already defeated him. It's a question of he's a fugitive. He's nowhere, just hiding. One day we shall get him.
You're determined?
Yes, because the main thing was to degrade his group. And we have done that very well.
They're completely demoralized?
Demoralized and destroyed. They are not there. Many of them have been killed. And the few remnants are in hiding.
Is that why you want another 5-year term, Mr. President? Coming back to Uganda, you have unfinished business.
No, the coin issue is finished as far as Uganda is concerned. They will never come back here. So security in Uganda is no longer a problem. It is now the transformation and the regional issues that are crucial, that are the first on our agenda.
You were appealing very much to the youth. I come back to that song of yours because we have to talk about it. You're appealing to a completely new generation. Young folks who have known nothing but Yoweri Museveni the last 25 years. That's all they've known. Is that why you decided to do this rap song?
No. This was accidental. But in a way it's not accidental because I am deeply entrenched in our heritage. I never, when I'm in my car or in my house, the only music I listen to is some church music, some military music, military tunes, and then our indigenous music. I never listen to any other music. So because of that entrenchment, I am quite knowledgeable about our history and that heritage. So on one of the occasions when I had been hearing them talking about rap, but I had never known what it was all about. Until later on when the youth organized something for me and I discovered that what they call rap actually means rhythmic talking, a certain type of rhythmic poetry mixed with the rhythms. Then I said, okay, if that is the case, then there are the rhythms of your ancestors, which you don't know about, and here they are. So they became, the children became mad. And I promised them that after the elections I will give you more tunes. So you'll be surprised, you'll get more tunes.
Were you surprised at how popular this was?
I was a bit surprised, but I could also see the thirst of the black youth. Because that's why they keep on imbibing those Western rubbish. Yeah. Because they don't have something here. So I think that thirst, when they found something from their ancestors, they were really. I was very happy with that. Yeah. I was very happy.
What is Sevo? Is that short for Museveni?
That's what I hear. That's what I understand. They have not told me, but that's what that's what they have told me. They say what is a DJ?
DJ is a disc jockey.
Who is that?
He's
now?
The one who spins the records.
Oh.
So you DJ Sevo?
Now that you have explained to me, I saw it in the papers. Yes. Saying DJ. I didn't know what it meant.
How does the line go again?
The line. Okay, let's start with this. Mpenkoni ngarama zeizere ni chunde ebinwa bya ritendegere nkube mutere ahiguru mpariya ahiguru hariho ubwitiro buzarwa nenkura enkure shoro metekera kara kembogo karumo omonyo guruga nsharra munda yengoma Yengoma, Yengoma, Yengoma. That's one of them.
And then you said, you want another rap?
Okay, then there's another one which I gave them, which was na demakat kara nkahigara igaro wa ntambiko ya mpakasyo akasyo na kabagesi abagesi ba mporro orona warukoko ya mpihuri ihuri na habana abana ba mpengea engea na gihomukama umukama ya mpakasa kasana yishweza umukazi yanzara umwana amweta mugarra yagariwe shenkuru. That's the other rap. But when they put in music, it becomes interesting.
Yeah, it was very good.
And
then they all say, yes, Savo.
Yes.
Mr. President, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Great
much.
job. Fantastic. Good luck. All the best.
Thank you.
And I hope we can come back to Twitter to talk again.
Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You heard DJ Savo. YK, I tell you, M7, President of Uganda, waxing lyrical right here on the bench. You've heard him for the last hour. He knows what he's talking about. He's got bigger plans, not just for Uganda, not just for the Banyankole, for the entire region. A true leader, folks. Any way you look at it, you make the call. He's sat on the bench. He's said what he said. Wow, that's all we can say. What a guest. What a show. What a week it's been on the bench, folks. You simply cannot find guests like President Museveni anywhere else but right here on the award-winning station, K24, where we are. Even though we are in Rachitura, we are still all Kenyan.
All the time. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
We want another rap.